Hi guys, welcome back to Sacred Vedic Astrology. My name is Samantha. I feel so blessed to be a professional Vedic sidereal astrologer. So I hope everyone is having such a great start to their new year. There's a lot shifting this year energetically. Yes, astrologically, but also I'm not sure how many of you guys are into numerology, but essentially the 2025 energy was a 9-year in numerology, and it was also the year of the snake. So the way that 2025 was experienced collectively was very much about shedding the old, releasing the old, clearing out old cycles, old patterns. It was this very interesting year of clearing and release and shedding, essentially. So if you guys felt like 2025 was less of a forward movement sort of energy and more of this reflective, clearing, closing out old cycles energy, that is really what it was. And I experienced 2025 in that way. Like, I felt like so many things came up to be cleared or worked through or alchemized or shed to some degree. And now that it is 2026, which is the 1 year in numerology, and also the year of the horse, which if we think about a horse, it's all about forward momentum and movement and change. It's really different energetically, absolutely. 2025 was a year of clearing and letting go, and 2026 is a year of forward momentum and movement and change and shifting and trying new things and a lot of putting things out there into the world with the mix of the horse year and the energy of the one as well too. So I just wanted to bring some numerology into it because I actually think that I got into numerology before astrology when I was younger, if I remember correctly. I'm not so sure. I got into both of them when I was like 13 years old because I was trying to figure out what was going on. I was like, what? Why? What is this? What is all this? I'm a life path 11. For those of you who know numerology, I'm such an 11. And I was born on the 22nd. So, oh my God, master numbers galore. So it definitely has been an interesting life path. But yeah, I also love numerology so much. And if you guys want me to ever talk a little bit more about numerology or maybe do some videos about the different life path numbers, I absolutely can as well too. Okay, so that was my little consensus on the energy of 2025 moving into 2026. I just wanted to give a little bit of that insight, but hope everyone is feeling good and energized and motivated coming into the new year. So today we are going to talk about, in Vedic astrology, some planetary aspects that I find to give very creative charts, okay? So we're not going to talk about houses in this video. So obviously we always have to analyze third house, fifth house, our benefics aspecting those houses, our benefics in those houses, because the third house and the fifth house are absolutely correlated to the arts and creative expression. So that's always going to be analyzed if we're looking to like a more creative sort of chart. But what I really want to focus on today is actually planetary aspects that give a very creative sort of chart. So we're not focusing on houses, we're just focusing on some planetary influences that I see time and time again in charts where someone is very creative, very artistic, loves to create and express, right? And I also want to emphasize the point that being creative throughout your life does not translate to, oh my God, someone's a professional artist. That's not what I'm talking about. That's a different sort of analysis. That's analysis into the 10th house, the career. We're looking at different things for that. If it's like, oh, can someone be a successful artist in their career? Different story. What I'm talking about is if someone's life is about creativity, right? So even if they're not a professional painter or artist, their life is embedded with threads and themes of creativity, right? They love the arts. They want to be around beautiful things, and they love anything creative and artistic and poetic and musical, like that. So that is also something I want to emphasize. We're not talking about famous artists in this video. We're talking about someone who loves to create and express throughout their whole life experience, okay? So I have a little list of the top planetary influences that I see in charts where someone is very creative, and we are going to go through this and you can have your chart pulled up, you can look at your chart and see if you have any of these aspects, okay? So the first one that I see very, very often in creative charts is going to be Venus influencing the moon. So Venus conjunct moon or Venus opposite moon. So Venus is the karaka, or the indication of beauty, harmony, luxury, the arts, anything that's more pleasurable and creative and artistic and beautiful, right? And so the moon is manas, it's the mind, it's the emotional nature, it's the subconscious. The moon is essentially how we filter things, right? So it's like how we process or feel about things. And if Venus is influencing that energy in the chart, then someone thinks a lot about art. They think a lot about beauty. They think a lot about luxury. You'll find a lot of very artistic and sensitive creative types have a Venus moon aspect. And I have a video on this, but Venus, when it influences the moon, someone can really overindulge as well too in pleasure, in beauty. If they like sweets, they really overdo it. If they like nice luxury items, they can really overdo it. If they like drugs or alcohol, they can really overdo it with the Venus moon aspect as well too, because there is such a like pleasureful aspect of Venus on the moon, and it's too benefic. So like they want to feel good, they want things to feel good all the time, and sometimes that can lead to overindulgence as well too. But Venus on the moon, people love to be around beauty and creativity and harmony and luxury. So their mind is very Venusian, right? They think a lot about Venus. They feel things through Venus. They filter things through Venus. Their emotions can be very Venusian. I have Venus opposite my moon, and I think about Venus all the time. Like I'll just be driving and be like, oh, this is poetry. So I know this aspect very, very well. And it's a very creative mind with Venus on the moon. And I think it's great. I think it's really great for anyone who wants to be creative, be artistic, filter the world through a more creative or artistic lens. But there is a lot of like overindulgence, want to feel good all the time, doesn't want to feel bad as well too, with that Venus moon aspect. So that is one aspect I really see in a lot of creative charts. Okay, the next aspect is Venus aspecting Mars in conjunction or opposition. So Venus is again the karaka for creativity, beauty, pleasure, the arts, and then Mars is like energy and drive, and Mars really energizes whatever it touches, right? So if Mars is energizing Venus, it's bringing a lot of energy towards the themes of Venus. Someone gets activated by Venus. They feel like really motivated, energized, driven to go towards the Venusian themes, right? So they're very passionate with Venus Mars. They love to express themselves through all sorts of forms. They can be a little bit overly zealous at times with Venus Mars, like, oh my God, I want everything to feel passionate. I want it all to be passionate. And I remember one of my Vedic teachers, James, would say if someone has the Venus Mars conjunction, you have to tell them not to go for relationships that are just based on passion and chemistry. So Venus with Mars can be very much this like alchemical mix of so much passion and excitement that people like really don't like to sit still or be bored with a Venus Mars aspect as well too. They can really want to always feel excited, always feel passionate, and there's the good and the bad to that, of course. So if you have a Venus Mars aspect, you guys know what I'm talking about. There's just this desire to feel excited by life. There's a desire to want things to feel fun and fiery like that. And it's a lifetime of passion, right? So whatever someone does with the Venus Mars aspect, they want it to feel passionate, exciting, which lends itself to creativity, right? Someone wants to dress in a way that expresses themselves. They want to feel very expressive with Venus on Mars. So there is this very like excitable, passionate sort of energy when Venus comes together with Mars. And it can also be very charismatic. They say Venus with Mars in a Kendra Ingle house, so houses 1, 4, 7, or 10 gives a leader. So if Venus is with Mars in those houses, someone can have a lot of leadership ability as well too, because they are very passionate and charismatic, and they can really talk passionately and express themselves very passionately. So like if that's in the first house, that really, really comes across, and they can lead and have a very beautiful energy there as well too. So Venus Mars is very creative, it's very passionate, it's very energized, but also they want everything to feel so excitable all the time. Which again, there's the good and bad of every influence in astrology. Absolutely. There's like the higher forms and then the lower forms. Okay. So Venus Moon, Venus Mars. All right, another one that one of my teachers said is actually the most creative conjunction in Vedic astrology is Mercury with Venus. And I have seen this in many charts of songwriters, singers, lyricists. I've actually seen specifically 3 charts like in a row where they had Mercury conjunct Venus conjunct Sun. So they had like a 3 planetary conjunction, and they were all artists and musicians and lyricists. So you'll see that with Mercury with Venus. Okay. So Venus is the Karaka again for love, beauty, the arts, pleasure, and then Mercury is the Karaka for expression, for communication. And so when Venus comes with Mercury, they can express themselves in a very Venusian way, right? They can speak beautifully, they can sing, they can speak poetically, they can have this very Venusian sort of expression. And so what is a singer? What is a songwriter? What is a lyricist? Someone who's expressing themselves through like beauty and arts. So Mercury with Venus is a very creative conjunction, and more often than not, I see this in charts of singers and songwriters very often. And it's a really great conjunction for any sort of written creative expression. So you could also be like an author or a poet or a music composer, themes like that with Mercury and Venus aspects. Yeah, so expression through words and media, essentially, with Venus and Mercury. So that's a really creative aspect. And again, one of my Vedic teachers said that is the top creative aspect. And I've seen it. I've seen it absolutely play out in many charts. All right, so the next one is Sun aspecting Venus. So this is in Bob Dylan's chart, right, where we did his in-depth chart analysis. And here's the thing about it is Sun is Atma, it's the soul, right? So if the Sun and someone's like soul essence, their soul is with Venus, then they're gonna be creative. Their soul is like trying to emulate this Venusian energy because they're together, they're influencing each other. So Sun with Venus will give someone who wants to express themselves and experience life through Venus, right? They want to feel beautiful. They want to express themselves in a beautiful way. I find a lot of the times, for whatever reason, let me know if you guys have this aspect and you feel this, but for some reason, when I see a Sun-Venus conjunction, it's usually charts where they really love, if it's a man's chart, they love women so much that it can be a lot of energy, right? Like a Sun-Venus aspect is similar to Venus in the 7th, where it's so much energy emulating with Venus that sometimes it can burn it out as well too, right? So like if we think about the Sun, a lot of energy essentially, right? It's like burns things out. So Sun with Venus can be either they're like very creative and beautiful and artistic, and they can be very sensitive and express themselves in these beautiful ways. And then another aspect of Sun with Venus is they can burn themselves out in those areas of life as well too. So they can go too much towards women, too much towards pleasure, themes like that as well too. So I've seen that in many charts where the man, more so a male chart because Venus is women, right? Where like they have some things like perhaps affairs or overlaps in relationships, which I talked about in Bob Dylan's chart, but that can be there because Sun is burning out the energy of Venus as well too. So it's like need to make sure you don't burn yourself out with the themes of Venus. Absolutely. All right, so Sun with Venus is very charismatic, very visually pleasing, very visually aesthetic. They can look very great. They can have a really cool style and look about them, and they're absolutely going to have some creative interest. Okay, now the next creative aspect I want to talk about in the chart is when we have either Rahu or Ketu with Venus. So it can really go either way, right? And this is where Rahu and Ketu become very interesting in astrology, because I speak about this a lot, but we don't always necessarily know how the nodes are going to perform in a chart, because Rahu is Rahu, Ketu is Ketu. It's not a planet that we can necessarily grasp or hold, right? So if we think about the grahas, which are the planets, it means to grasp, okay? So a planet, we can grasp, we can hold it, we can understand it. Rahu and Ketu is shadowy, right? It's not a planetary influence that we can necessarily just hold on to and understand. It's very elusive with Rahu and Ketu. So is someone going to go more towards their Rahu? Are they going to go more towards their Ketu? Do they have Ketu with Venus, and do they want to be an artist, or do they want to let it go? It's not always so simplistic, right? Like, I've had charts of clients where they have Ketu Venus and they used to be in the arts and then they let it go. And then we also had Bob Dylan's chart where he had, I think he had Ketu aspecting his natal Venus, and he was a super successful artist, right? So it's like, it can go either way with the nodes, but what I do find is a lot of times in artistic charts, Rahu or Ketu aspects Venus or is in conjunction with Venus. And here's the thing about it as well too, is Rahu and Ketu creates these special trine aspects. So they aspect any planet that is 5 houses away, 9 houses away. 5 houses away, 9 houses away, which is the trine in Western astrology, right? So if I see a chart and they're creative or artistic, a lot of times, many times, Rahu or Ketu influences their natal Venus by its 5th aspect or its 9th aspect. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's in a conjunction, but there is going to be that planetary influence from Rahu or Ketu. Okay, so we need to also check the 5th aspect and the 9th aspect. And I've said this before, but I find Rahu or Ketu, when they aspect planets in the 5th or 9th aspect, they really do act as a conjunction. Like, I have Rahu aspecting my moon, I have Ketu aspecting my Venus. When I read about, or when I used to read about, like, what is Rahu with the moon? That's me. You know, that I feel that all the time. Or like Ketu on Venus, yeah, that's me. So you will find that those trine aspects of Rahu and Ketu really play out. Like, they really, really do, almost like a conjunction in my experience. Okay, so Rahu or Ketu, the nodal axis tied up with Venus, will absolutely give creative artistic interest, right? Because the nodes are where someone's soul has either already been or is going, right? And so there's a lot of this like familiarity or desire when the nodes do tie up with Venus. Rahu with Venus is a little bit more of like a, oh my God, I'm going to chase this. A little bit more intense, a little bit more materialistic perhaps. Rahu Venus is very much like, for example, a chart with Rahu conjunct Venus is Lana Del Rey, and she really chased after her art and her creativity, and her relationships were always very Rahu. They were passionate and intense and tumultuous. That's Rahu with Venus. Ketu with Venus could be a little bit more been there, done that. It comes naturally, it comes easily. It's more spiritual, perhaps. It's more subdued, but there's a lot of natural gifts with Ketu and Venus. So it's different in the manifestation, but both ways, Rahu or Ketu with Venus, there's like this soul familiarity with Ketu or soul longing with Rahu to go towards Venus, which is like creativity, expression, desire, beauty, pleasure, luxury, etc. So it's going to manifest a bit differently. Like for me, I have Ketu aspecting my Venus, and like art or creativity to me, it's more Ketu in the way that it comes out, if that makes sense. Like when I would do like film and photography, it was always very spiritual, and it was like a natural sort of gift where I remember someone told me once, he was like, you know what's crazy is like, he was a professional photographer for forever, and he was like, you take a photo and you just do it so naturally and like in a second. And so someone said that to me verbatim, and that's Ketu. It's like a past thing. It's really familiar. It comes with ease. Like when I was doing photography, it was just very easy in a lot of ways. Like I just naturally knew how to do it, if that makes sense. It was very familiar. And that's more of that Ketu. Rahu would be like, oh my God, I need to chase this and I have to go after it and I desire it so much. That's more of that Rahu Venus energy. Ketu is like, been there, done that. I know how to do this. It's spiritual, it's strange, it's innately in me. It's film, photography, television. So if someone has a Ketu Venus aspect, they can express themselves more through film, photography, and television. Absolutely. But it's just easy, right? And again, how is it going to play out? Are they going to let it go or detach at some point? That's always, something that's really dependent on other aspects of the chart and other things going on astrologically, right? Like for me, I have that Ketu Venus aspect pretty strong, pretty tightly, and photography, it's just so easy for me. If I pick up a camera, I just know it's just easy. It's just easy. It's like this old thing, but it also boring for me after a while. Like I was just like, I don't know about this. It got draining in a sense. So it can really go either way with Ketu on Venus, but there's still going to be these like innate creative artistic gifts, right? Because it's Ketu. It's something that is innately familiar and spiritual and past life. And oh my God, I just know this energy. And then Rahu is like, let me chase after it. Oh my God, I want it so badly. It's more like that. So absolutely, the Rahu Ketu nodal axis tied up with Venus is still going to give that really intense creative aspect of someone's life story and their soul. And many, many artists throughout history, famous, beautiful artists, movie stars had a Rahu Venus conjunction or aspect. Ketu Venus, yes, but a little bit different in the way that it would manifest or unfold. Okay, so those were the main planetary and Rahu Ketu, which are not planets, influences that I see in charts where someone is more creative or artistically inclined. And again, it doesn't mean that they're a professional singer or a professional painter. It can, but more than anything, it's just that their life is full of artistic desires and creative desires and a desire for pleasure and beauty and harmony and things to feel beautiful and to look beautiful, right? So not everyone is that way. Like I always assume everyone is that way. Because that's how I am, and that's like what I grew up around, and that's like what a lot of my friends are. Like I just always assume someone's artistic or creative, which is like a really weird thing, right? But not everyone is that way, right? I have a lot of clients where we talk and they're very pragmatic and they're very analytical and they don't really think in that more creative artistic way, and it's not good or bad. It's just really different in someone's life experience and how they express themselves and how they play out their life, right? And it's really important to know if someone has a more creative artistic chart, because whatever they're doing in this lifetime, there is that creative thread or that creative undertone, right? So it's like they can work in tech, but they might come up with really great creative solutions. They can work in tech, but they want to write a book on the side. They can work as a lawyer, but they want their home to be beautiful and they love art and they love music, right? So it's not about the career, it's about the life experience and the soul desire to express and create and have beauty and harmony and pleasure and like that. Okay. All right, so comment down below if you guys have these planetary aspects or influences, and I would love to hear your experience with them because I'm always learning so much as a astrologer. Like basically for me, when I learn the most is when I'm doing a chart and I'm talking about things and they say like, yes, it's exactly like that, or it's similar to that, but it's a little bit like this, and then I gain more insight and perspective into the chart, right? As professional astrologers, we're always learning. You never stop learning astrology, ever. My teacher has been doing astrology for, 40 years at this point, and he's like, yeah, 10 years ago I did things that don't work, or I had to change this, or I thought this worked and then it didn't. You're always learning, you're always going back to the drawing board and trying to figure out how to be more accurate as an astrologer. So I always love hearing your guys' experiences and your insights of having and living out these planetary influences as well too. All right, and as you guys know, I'm always open for personal sessions where I do this with your chart. I go through the chart and analyze what's going on, what's the purpose, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses of the charts, etc., etc. So I'll also link that down below. And honestly, my favorite thing is when I get clients who find me on YouTube, because I think when you guys come to me from YouTube, you have a sense of my vibe more than anything else, right? So it's not like about my reviews, or it's just about my vibe. So I get a lot of clients, they're like, yeah, I saw you on YouTube and I just liked your vibe. And I'm like, yeah. So that's always like my favorite thing, because you guys get a full sense of like my personality and my energy through these videos. So that always makes me really happy when you guys tell me that you watch my videos and you love my content. That always is really the best as well too. All right, so I hope you guys are having such an amazing start to your new year. Comment down below your experiences, your thoughts, your perspectives, and also let me know if you guys have any ideas for content you want me to film in the new year. I have a lot of goals when it comes to content and business, a lot of things I'm trying to shift, and new ideas and new offerings, and I just really want to try new things in business this year. So I'm really excited about that and would love to hear any ideas. All right, sending all the love. We'll talk soon. Bye guys.